Breaking news in the regulatory space. In lieu of an intro, I want to jump straight into it today, guys. This is on Twitter by Jake Travinsky. Long thread, which I'm going to read word for word for anybody who isn't on Twitter right now. There are, of course, links in the description so you can see this for yourself, as well as the relevant subsequent links for you to be able to talk to your representative for your state or to your congressperson. This matters. This matters big time. And as he says, this is not a drill. This is imminent. This is very important. And to anybody who says that it's not important for you to get involved, I'm sorry, but collectively, talking to elected representatives in the United States has created some benefit in the past. We can make a difference when we talk to our elected representatives and basically tell them in no uncertain terms, I want you to behave this way. I want you to vote this way on this topic. We can help avoid disaster. But here's more about it. He says a new provision has been added that expands the tax code's definition of broker to capture nearly everyone in crypto, including non-custodial actors like miners, forcing them to KYC all users. As you know, especially miners that mine to pooled resources, we couldn't possibly do that. There's no possible way that we could KYC all users on the other end or other miners to that pool. That is literally impossible. The whole point is to try to shut us down. But he goes on saying the bill expands the definition of a broker to include air quotes, any person who, for consideration, is responsible for and regularly provides any service effectuating transfer of digital assets. Now, we get a block subsidy, and according to legal definition, depending on how they sway this, that could be considered consideration, right? That could be consideration of our services by giving us a block subsidy, a block reward in exchange for our mining power. He goes on to say, earlier drafts said, even if non-custodial explicitly included DEXs and peer-to-peer markets. This definition is so broad it could apply to nearly every economic actor in the U.S. crypto industry if read literally. That includes proof-of-work miners and proof-of-stake validators. See, proof-of-stake networks are not exempt from this requirement and this verbiage, since providing a service to effectuate transfers of digital assets for consideration seems to fit both. He's spot on. It might include a huge range of DeFi market participants too, like DEX, liquidity providers, liquidators, protocol governors, AMMs, etc. Depending on what for consideration means, it might also extend to non-economic actors like node operators or wallet developers. The scope here could be massive. A lot of it has to do with the interpretation, and as we've seen from politicians like Elizabeth Warren, there's no problem playing fast and loose from the global stage, right? The national stage in the United States. And of course, without sounding egotistical, obviously the rest of the world is watching too. But from the global stage, they play fast and loose with the definitions all the time and pretend to have powers that they don't. If legislation like this passes, they will have the ability, the license, if you will, to just say whatever they want and actually be able to do it. So, yeah. The tax code requires brokers to comply with IRS reporting requirements. Most importantly, they have to give Form 1099s to their customers and file them with the IRS too. To fill out Form 1099s, this is common practice in other industries, right? Brokers have to collect customer data, including name, address, phone number, etc. And I'll just add to that, Social Security or EIN. You have to have a tax ID in order to issue a 1099. So, yeah. This means brokers have to KYC customers to comply with IRS reporting requirements. As a result, the provision functions as a surveillance mandate, just like the one Secretary Mnuchin proposed at the final days of the Trump administration. As before, this is a very bad idea. And you guys know, if you watch the channel for any length of time, you know I agree. As those who understand crypto already know, users are pseudonymous and access is permissionless. I literally had a conversation with somebody from who currently resides in Lebanon, who's not always from there, but in Lebanon this morning, who wasn't familiar with even the concept of decentralized exchanges and AMMs. Their mind was blown. They didn't know they could color outside the lines or create an entirely new picture altogether because of the permissionlessness of cryptocurrencies. We're just getting started. We are actually so early. If you're watching this channel, if you're into crypto in the way that we are, we're actually so early. Very few people really know. And this kind of legislation threatens to crush the adoption curve before we really get started. It's literally impossible, he goes on to say, for non-custodial actors like miners to get the information they need to do a Form 1099-S. In practice, this could mean a de facto ban on mining in the USA. Guys, this is exactly the opposite of what we need, especially since hash rate has been transferring out of China. This is exactly the opposite of what we need. We absolutely need mining to come to the United States. We absolutely need mining to go to Central and South America. We need mining to go all across Oceania and into Africa. We need it everywhere. But here, especially, where we have resources, monetary and otherwise, to facilitate large-scale mining, we need it to be adopted and fostered here. Anyway, he says, this sounds insane, but it really might happen. Most crypto legislation goes nowhere, so it's easy to ignore, but not this time. And I agree with him 100%. The way that it's so loosey-goosey, and the fact that we have characters, just say, like Elizabeth Warren, talking the way that they have been from a public stage, worries me about if this even stands a chance of getting adopted, what it will mean. He says the provision is part of the bipartisan and otherwise popular infrastructure bill, which is moving quickly through Congress and is likely to pass. So they kind of slip this in to another bill, as they are wont to do, right? Our legislators in this country, when they really want to see something passed, they find something else that already has legs and they just sandwich it in to something else that looks like it has a really good chance of passing. So this, if we're not careful, could make it in. What does crypto have to do with infrastructure, you may ask? The bill has to include pay-for provisions to raise revenue for new spending so that it's revenue neutral as a whole. The broker definition is one of the pay-for provisions in the Senate draft of the bill. There are three main ways to raise revenue in a bill like this: increase current taxes, add new taxes, or improve tax compliance. And here's the thing, we've been saying it for a while. Distributed ledger technologies, when they're public, they would absolutely assist in improving tax compliance if redefined to mean that everybody involved was a money transmitter and that there were applicable taxes unique to money transmitters in cryptocurrency. See the problem here? You're operating in the clear on networks that everybody can see. Good guys, bad guys, everyone in between. And I'm not going to call names here to our legislators and our fine IRS here in the United States. But everybody gets to see the transactions. Everybody gets to see the provenance of those transactions and the destination of those transactions. It is for tax compliance. It's a boon, right? It helps people who definitely need to keep solid records. But for anybody who previously, just based on the stroke of a pen and a changing of definition, didn't previously have a tax liability and then suddenly does, it puts a massive strain on them, as they may not any longer have those coins, but they still have a tax liability. This allegedly falls in the third category, making people pay taxes they already owe. Congress thinks crypto is full of tax evaders, and like he says, it isn't. I agree, it isn't. You can use an XPub key function for your Bitcoin address right now, for your Bitcoin account right now, to furnish that to a tax preparer who's actually competent with cryptocurrencies, and they can immediately find what all your transactions have been, what the cost basis was for you acquiring your Bitcoin, what the cost basis was for a transaction of Bitcoin that may have resulted in a capital gains event. Again, without me offering advice, I'm not offering advice. I'm saying the people that do sell you their services to give you advice, they know this stuff. And they know that people who are dealing with cryptocurrencies at a large scale are not out to evade taxes. In fact, it makes their life easier. The problem becomes when they redefine who it is that has a tax liability. The infrastructure bill is estimated to cost over $1 trillion. Congress scored the new broker definition at $28 billion in added tax revenue. And you know, politicians, when they see a number that large, they're excited, right? Their mouths start to water a little bit. They're licking their lips, thinking of those billions and billions of added dollars in tax revenue. And between you, me, and the fence post, if they can be paid in native cryptocurrencies, well, any of the smart legislators, I don't know how many that represents, should know also that 28 billion will not equal 28 billion if held correctly in the coffers of the IRS and of the organizations that this flows out to. He says, I have no clue how they got this number or how it's even possible to calculate. Regardless, this is no way to handle major new regulations. This is a deeply misguided provision that, if adopted, will do far more harm than good to U.S. interests. I'll give you my top 5 reasons why. You guys already heard mine in terms of attracting miner talent and investment into the United States. We already have phenomenal energy exploration and phenomenal energy generation opportunities here in the United States. That is paired with mining at the point of energy exploration and generation and co-generation. We've got so much potential, and this nips it in the bud. But Jake's 5 reasons are this. First, it defies logic to adopt a regulation for which compliance is literally impossible unless the goal is to kill the industry. Second, it'll be a huge foreign policy failure. After China made the geopolitical blunder of forcing miners out of their country, many of us hoped that the US would take market share in this crucial sector. Yours truly included. Sorry for the shouting, guys. I'm a little fired up about this. We can't make the same mistake China did. We have to stay in the game. Third, it won't work. For every new dollar of tax revenue, we'll lose 2 or 10 as the U.S. crypto industry shuts down or goes offshore. Guys, these are permissionless networks. There are other ways to operate them, and we know of ways to operate them outside of the purview of the United States government. The rest of the industry does it, and they do it through technological means. I'm not going to describe those here right now, but I'm going to say I agree with him. It's going to appear as though crypto just disappears from the United States publicly, as far as the internet and the digital trail of transactions being done and mining being done in the United States. It's just going to look like it went away. He says, and instead of getting more insight into taxable crypto gains, the IRS will get less as more users go dark on unregulated platforms. Fourth, it short circuits the discussion we've been having with FinCEN. Since President Biden took office, FinCEN has done a ton of solid work on crypto AML regulation. We should keep that process going, not cut it off by sneaking KYC in through the tax code's back door. Fifth, the burden it'll place on civil rights is unacceptable. As per usual, democratizing technologies and disintermediating technologies like cryptocurrency and blockchain, they are champions of civil rights. Blockchain doesn't care what your skin color is. Blockchain doesn't care what your sexual orientation is or what your gender is or what you prefer to identify yourself as. It doesn't care. It's just code. You either know how to use it or you don't. Or you don't. Oh my gosh. Guys, I'm having a fit here. Really, it is one of the most empowering and democratizing forces in the world to date. When you help people be free with their money, you help them to be free in every other way imaginable. Anyway, yeah. Civil rights unacceptable. Our Fourth Amendment right to privacy limits how much surveillance government can mandate without a warrant. Guys, that is unreasonable search and seizure. Your Fourth Amendment. That's what that is. And it's paired with your Fifth Amendment of the right to remain silent. Your Miranda right. They're very closely tied together for a reason. How much surveillance government can mandate without a warrant? And in a post-SolarWinds world, the last thing we need to do is expose more sensitive information to a security breach. So what can we do? To start, don't panic. Well, too late. I got a little bit panicky. I came here to talk to you, though, so we're trying to come up with a productive way to handle this. He says this provision isn't final yet and can still be changed. Even if it passes as is, it shouldn't take effect until 2023 at earliest, so at least we'll have time to try to undo it in Congress or the courts. This may be a long fight. And then 18, he says, if you're a U.S. citizen, call your members of Congress, especially Senator Portman if you're in Ohio. If anyone says, this won't help, after we held off FinCEN and the FATF, I'll lose my mind. I agree with him. There are some fights that do not require government intervention. Others where that is the fight. That's the definition of the fight. And right now, we have to fight legislation with our voices. Thankfully, this process still kind of works here. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it's the best we've got to prevent this from going into law. Now, code is not law. Law is law. And we're going to see a lot of problems after the fact if we let this law pass. He says, find your House rep here, find your senator here. You'll find links to those down in the description of this video, as well as, of course, to this thread with a thread unreader on. I think I'll probably do one of the thread reader apps. I'll give you both of those options if you want to read this or you want to post it to your blog or whatever else. Please amplify this. This is not about me breaking some news to you. This is about us getting the word out. If you're in the United States, you have to do your part. You've got to at least, it's a phone call. That's it. It's a phone call or it's an email. It's a message on their website that lets them know that you're actually concerned about this, that you actually care. And you can get other people involved too. I'm asking you, if you're a United States member of the audience, based here in the US, lower 48, Hawaii, Alaska, whatever, please, even if you're in Puerto Rico, but you're not a full-time resident and you have US citizenship, consider it. Says if you're the leader of a US crypto company and aren't involved in this yet, reach out to me or the team at Blockchain Association after you call your members of Congress. Your voice is especially important. I'm going to go ahead and issue that call to our mining pool operators, any of them that are stateside. Obviously, there's some very large pools that are not operated in the United States, but some of them are registered as foreign entities. You do have an interest in this and you can lend your voice to it. And you can post a notice of this on your website, on your pool, whether you're in the US or not, because you have US users. I'm being as direct as possible to our community. If you're a miner, if you offer anything related to mining, you need to get your head in the game. You need to get into this fight with us. I don't care about unboxing a new piece of mining gear. If in 3 months we see a very real risk of this passing, and then in 2023, it doesn't matter what your mining gear did for you if everybody's an outlaw for having used it. He says, lastly, everyone top up your donations to Coin Center. They may need it. Possibly. They are advocates and they are lobbyists on behalf of cryptocurrencies and blockchain considerations. I think we need to do our part first and foremost. He says, for my part, as usual, I'll be working with their association and others on a lawsuit challenging the provision if it comes to that. I don't think the courts will take kindly to a law forcing non-custodial actors to surveil U.S. citizens on behalf of the IRS. But we never know. He says things are moving fast, which can feel scary, but as it was with FinCEN's proposed rule, it's amazing to see the entire industry come together this week to fight against this. We really do have some of the best and brightest on our side. Stay tuned for updates. I have to agree with that. I really think that we're the best and brightest from every single aspect of the industry. Those of us who are in the trenches, right, putting in sweat to see that mining pools operate, that mining gear operates, that it's decentralized, not all concentrated in the hands of 1 or 2 or 3 actors. We're all doing our part to help blockchain become what it can be, and Bitcoin, more to the point, become what it can be, but every aspect of the crypto market cap and industry become what it has the potential to become. Check out those links. Make the call. Send the message. Let our elected leadership know that we will not take this lightly, that we will not just let this happen. We won't go down without a fight. We won't be silent, and we won't be silenced. All right, guys, this is a much more serious one. Thank you for watching to the end. Thanks for being subscribed, sharing it, but especially thank you for contacting your elected leaders. I'll see you in the next one.